we breathe it, we blow it on our food when it's too hot, and it fuels our extreme gear. Wait, what? Sonic Riders is a racing game for the 6th generation of consoles with a high skill ceiling. That has made it difficult for many people to embrace and enjoy the game for what it is. It has also led to its sequels getting the axe on many features that allowed full control of the gears, instead opting to automate certain elements. But the complexity of the original Sonic Riders is not the reason that it's bad. It's actually very, very good. It's just that not many people actually know how to play it. That's where I and many other veterans can step in. I've been playing Sonic Riders since it came out in 2006, and I know all of its ins and outs. This isn't a review of the game like I would normally do. No, today's video is all about learning how to play the game, starting from the basic controls and going up to advanced maneuvers that there may not always be a use for. So have a seat, students, and open your textbooks to Chapter 1. There will be a quiz after today's lesson. Just kidding. Sit back and pay attention as you attend Sonic Riders 101. And hopefully, after our lesson today, you will become a Sonic Riders Pro. Before you even start a race, you need to think carefully about what character and gear you're going to use. On a fresh save file, the choice is easy because there aren't many choices. You can choose either a speed, flight, or power character, which determines your access to certain shortcuts that I'll explain in Chapter 4. Each character has their own standard gear that is unlocked from the start, but there are a whopping 54 gears total, most of which can be unlocked or bought throughout the game. Each gear comes with its own quirks, and I'll explain some of those quirks in the following chapters, but there will be a full breakdown in the appendix. When you start a race, you have this countdown where racers run toward the starting line. The timing and speed at which you cross the line is important, as it can be the difference between you starting at the front or the back of the pack. The typical way to cross effectively is to start backing up, then when the starting laser crosses you, wait for about a second before you start running forward. If you start too early, you'll run into the electric barrier, and if you start too late, you'll fall behind. I found that starting to run forward between 2.8 and 2.6 seconds on the countdown gives me the best opportunity for an unbelievable start. Oh yeah, you're ranked based on how quickly you can start, so practice as much as you can. Try to hit the starting gate at full speed to stay ahead of whoever's behind you. Once you get moving, it's fairly simple to get around. The gear propels forward automatically as long as you have air, covered in Chapter 2, so all you need to worry about is turning left and right and jumping off ramps. By the way, from here on out, any controls I mention will assume the GameCube version. Please feel free to adapt the instructions to PlayStation 2, Xbox, or PC as you see fit. To effectively jump off a ramp, hold down the A button to charge your jump, then release at the very edge of the ramp. A weak jump presents less opportunities to do tricks than a strong jump, which will be covered further in Chapter 2. Just know that to keep yourself in the game, you need to charge that jump. Each track has corners that need to be turned effectively. To do this, hold down the L or R triggers while turning in any direction to drift. This drift can then be manipulated by steering left or right to get the best corner cut. After drifting for about a second or so, letting go of the L or R button will give you a quick boost. Be careful not to drift too long though, because it costs more air, which again will be covered in the next chapter. If for some reason you feel the need to stop, pressing L or R without turning will make your character brake. You won't always need to do this, it's primarily if you made a wrong turn and need to quickly stop. As you develop your skills, you'll find that a well-timed drift is enough to turn you back on course. Quick recap: pick your gear carefully, emphasize a strong running start to stay ahead, charge your jumps to get the most airtime, hold L or R while turning to drift, and if you need to stop, hold L or R without turning. The energy used to feel extreme gear is called air, and it's vital to know your air limits for each gear and how much you're actually using. Just riding on the track only eats up a minimal amount of air, but once you need to jump, drift, brake, or use other techniques found in later chapters, you're going to need lots of air. And if you run out, you're stuck running on the ground, which is much slower. So how do you get air back? Well, there are a few methods. First, if you're in a complete pinch, as in you're going to run out before hitting the next ramp, you can ride into a pit stop. This will freeze you in place and refill your air tank. Doing this, however, can give your opponents opportunities to catch up, which is why this is only for emergencies. The second way to get air back is through item boxes, but this should not be relied on because the item you actually get from an item box can be randomly generated on some tracks. The third and most common way of getting air back is by performing tricks in midair. In the previous chapter, I mentioned that charging a jump allows for more opportunities to do tricks. Tricks are performed by moving the control stick in different directions while jumping off a ramp. The amount of air you get back depends on how charged your jump was, your total air time, the amount of tricks you do, and whether you actually stick the landing. The ranks are what determine the air you get, and they range from C, B, A, AA, S, SS, and X. From a C rank, you get basically no air, and this happens if you do no tricks or fall on your head in the middle of one. The ranks climb up based on how many tricks are performed and how smooth the landing is, with X being the most coveted and the bringer of the most air. Pulling off consecutive tricks can fill your air meter back up from nearly zero, so keep that in mind. There are 2 more ways of getting air back, but like item boxes and pit stops, they shouldn't be relied on. One of these is automated segments where you rotate the control stick. The more you spin the stick, the more air you get back, and sometimes the faster you get through the automated segment. The other is through character-specific shortcuts, which I will cover in Chapter 4. So as a quick recap, you need air to do basically everything on your board, and the best way to get it back is through doing tricks. You can also use pit stops, item boxes, automated segments, and character shortcuts to get air back, but the best way is to do tricks. In order to stay ahead of the game, your gear needs to be able to keep the pace going. Scattered across the stage are rings. Collecting 30 rings levels your gear up to level 2, meaning it becomes a bit faster and can hold more air. Boosting and drifting still take up the same relative amount of air, but cruising along the tracks will take less air. Collecting 60 or more rings puts your gear at level 3, meaning it is now the fastest it will be and can hold the most air. Your level also matters while boosting. Press the B button at any time on the ground and your gear will boost. During this time, the character will also prepare an attack. If you move up to another racer while boosting, you will attack them. Keep an eye on the air meter because you can't boost if the meter is in the caution or danger zones. The attacks become more powerful and the boost becomes faster as you level up, which makes it more important to collect rings. If someone attacks you or if you fall off the stage, you will lose rings, causing you to drop down to level 1 usually. Hidden at least once in every stage is a giant item box that contains 100 rings, which is useful to grab if you lost your rings between laps. This system rewards risky maneuvers, but will not accommodate the reckless. If you fall behind, I'm sure you'll notice these wind currents. This is called turbulence, and it's generated by racers in front of you, usually by the guy in first place. It doesn't cost any air to ride it, and as the turbulence generator makes turns, you can lean to the side to jump off and do tricks to gain back air. This is also how you speed up. Doing more tricks allows you to speed up and eventually overtake the player generating it. You will not enter turbulence if you're charging a jump or drifting, but if you find yourself in some turbulence that you didn't want to be in, press L and R together to jump out of it. You can charge a jump ball in here, but it won't be visible. Speaking of charged jumps, one thing I neglected to mention before is doing high jumps and long jumps. If you notice a ramp aiming straight forward, like this first ramp in Metal City, hold up on the control stick while jumping to jump further forward. This will allow you to access the higher path, and this concept carries over to all the tracks. If you notice a ramp curving upward, like this second to last jump in Metal City, hold down on the control stick to do a high jump and reach the upper path. It won't always be obvious whether you need to hold up or down on a ramp to get the best jump, such as this first ramp in San Ruin actually requiring you hold down instead of up, so feel free to experiment and figure out the best jump for each ramp. The upper paths, much like the classic Sonic games, are tougher to get to but are more rewarding, possibly allowing you to recover large place gaps during a race. So to recap, collecting rings is important to level up your gear and get a stronger boost. Wind currents called turbulence allow you to ride forward and overtake the person generating them, and using long and high jumps allow you to find different shortcuts during each track. Sonic Riders features 3 different character types, similar to Sonic Heroes. The first character type is Speed. This includes Sonic, Amy, Jet, Shadow, Ulala, and E10000R. These characters are able to take grind rails as shortcuts. When you encounter a rail, press A to jump, but press A again to land on the rail. This will not work if you only press A once to jump. You don't need to control the character while he or she is grinding. However, to jump to consecutive rails, you will need to double tap A at the right time. You will get some air back while grinding, and the amount you get back increases as you jump to more rails. Normally only speed characters can do this, but if a flight or power character equips either the air broom, omnipotent spike, or grinder air skates, they can also grind on rails. The second character type is Flight. This includes Tails, Wave, Cream, Rouge, and Knights. These yellow marked ramps are where these characters take their shortcuts. While it is a ramp, you do not need to and should not jump off of them. Just run over them and you'll start flying. Move the stick around like a flight simulator to guide the character to boost rings scattered in the air to keep yourself moving along. Sometimes there will just be boost rings in your area, so jump off of them from a ramp to start flying. Each consecutive ring flown through causes more air to refill in your gear. Normally, only flight characters can use these, but if a speed or power character equips the Access Gear, Magic Carpet Gear, or Omnipotent Spike, they can take these shortcuts as well. The third character type is Power. This includes Knuckles, Storm, Dr. Eggman, Ai, and E10000G. Wait, Ai? Next time around. Power characters are able to punch away obstacles on the course, such as cars, barrels, and boxes. Each consecutive obstacle knocked away grants more air than the previous one. Some elements within a stage, such as ice blocks or walls with slightly uneven labels, can be broken through by a power character to take another path entirely. Sometimes this can be the difference between losing and winning a race. Normally only power characters can do this, but if a speed or flight character equips the Destroyer or Omnipotent Spikes, they can also barrel through obstacles. To recap, speed characters can grind on rails, flight characters can fly off ramps and speed rings, and power characters can punch through obstacles. Press L and R together to create a tornado behind you that grows more powerful as you level up. Any player caught in the tornado will slow down significantly. However, this comes at a cost of insane amounts of air, so only do this if you have the air to spare. Using this move causes you to slow down as well, so only use this if you have enough air for the tornado and to boost away so that you don't slow down as well. One exception to this is the Trap Gear, which is able to create consecutive tornadoes at the cost of not having a boost feature. In this case, yes please, spam that tornado attack, it actually speeds you up. The second thing I wanted to mention isn't necessarily a documented trick, more so something I came up with to make certain grind rails go faster. Normally you have to double press A off of a rail in order to land on another one. However, if you're already falling after slipping off a rail, then you only need to press A once. Not all rails will provide opportunities for this, but the ones that do require near perfect timing to pull it off right. You can still save about a second of time by doing it, so try it out. And to recap, the tornado allows you to slow down opponents, but it slows you down too, and if you slip off a rail and press A quickly, you can jump onto another one sometimes. Now we've reached the Appendix, where I will explain the unlockable gear's unique quirks. This won't cover the standard gears, as they're generally not very interesting to talk about. The first unlockable gear within story mode is Sonic's Blue Star 2 gear. It's not much different from his normal Blue Star, except that the top speed is a bit higher, and only Sonic can use it. The second unlockable gear from story mode is the Magic Carpet. It has great stats all around except for dashing, so boosts don't help much to keep you going. It does have the advantage of allowing speed and power characters to fly off flight ramps. Unless stated otherwise, the following gears must be purchased in the shop with rings. The High Booster is an average gear with a very high boost speed. It's useful for a pinch, but you might find yourself using it a bit more often since it's otherwise a run-of-the-mill gear. The Auto Slider is also an average gear with the ability to drift around corners automatically. If the player turns continuously in one direction, the gear will begin drifting without needing the L or R buttons held down. Of course, you can still use the buttons if you want to. The Powerful gear is a heavy gear designed to work well even on slower roads. Obstacles such as grass and ice will have less of an effect on your speed when using this gear. This gear is unlocked by repairing it using junk found in mission mode. The Turbo Star has the fastest acceleration of any gear in the game to quickly reach its top speed. This means that recovering from an attack or bumping into obstacles isn't as much of a burden. It otherwise is like other gears. This gear is unlocked by repairing it using junk collected in mission mode. The Speed Balancer is designed to maintain its top speed on straight roads, but it slows down significantly when making turns. This is more useful in basic tracks like Metal City or Babylon Guardian. The Access Gear is a special gear that allows speed or power characters to fly off of flight ramps. It otherwise has average stats. This gear cannot be used by flight characters. The Beginner Gear is designed for people less experienced with the game to get their footing. It doesn't have great stats, but it also consumes less air than other gears. The Accelerator Gear is designed to quickly reach and maintain top speed, making it good for time trials. The Trap Gear is a gear that removes the ability to boost, but in its place has the best excuse to use the tornado attack. Tornadoes actually boost the player when created, which allows the player to propel themselves forward while creating many opportunities to slow down players behind them. The light board is the lightest gear in the game, making it potentially easier to reach upper pathways during a race. The slide booster is a gear that can drift boost almost immediately after starting a drift, and its cornering ability is ridiculous. So ridiculous I almost missed corners trying to drift with it. The caveats are that it cannot boost normally, and it generally consumes more air than other gears. The Legend is a gear that holds a lot of air, but its other stats are not very impressive on paper. Generally, it handles very well, although performing tricks does not give back air. This gear is unlocked by repairing it using junk collected in mission mode. The Air Broom is a gear that allows flight and power formations to glide on rails. Its dash ability is high, but other stats dwindle. This gear cannot be used by speed characters. The Hovercraft is a powerful gear, but it's very hard to control. Left and right movement is very slippery, although mid-air and drifting controls are normal. This is a gear to use when you want to give yourself a bigger challenge. The Faster gear is designed for top speed and not much else. The Fastest gear has the highest speed of any gear in the game. Its other stats are decent, however you cannot get air back from doing tricks. This gear is unlocked by repairing it using junk collected in mission mode. The Gambler is a gear that was previously owned by a legendary gambler. Unlike some other gear which add abilities to characters, this one takes away character abilities. Sonic cannot grind, Tails cannot fly, and Knuckles will be given his just desserts when facing obstacles. Use this if you want to race against other players with a handicap on yourself. If you manage to finish in first with this gear, your collected rings actually double, hence the name Gambler. The Power gear is designed for endurance, meaning you won't slow down as much if you bump into obstacles. It doesn't add power abilities though. Opa Opa is a gear based on the Master System game Fantasy Zone. Your attacks are swapped out with attacks based on Fantasy Zone. Otherwise, it turns well and controls decently. The Crazy is a gear based on Crazy Taxi. Since Crazy Taxi is built around keeping a steady income while driving, the Crazy uses rings instead of air for fuel. You start with 30 rings, but they drain as you ride and execute moves like boosts and tornadoes. Character shortcuts do not earn rings, therefore they do not replenish fuel for this gear. The Berserker is a gear said to be used by a legendary knight. The character that uses it is in a constant attack-ready state, so all you have to do is ride up to another racer and you'll attack them. This comes at a significant cost though. Tricks, character shortcuts, and automated segments will not restore air. The only ways to get air back are through item boxes. Be careful when using this gear. Next we have a few bikes. The E-Rider bike is Eggman's default bike, but can be used by any other character. It has good stats, but it burns a lot of air even for normal driving. The air tank holds a lot of air, but its stats are otherwise not that impressive. The Heavy bike is the heaviest gear in the game. It has decent speed and boosting abilities, but otherwise is a bit tight to control. Despite that, it doesn't slow down very much when charging a jump, which can prove to be an advantage. The Destroyer bike has a drill on the front, granting speed and flight characters the power ability. It otherwise is an average gear. This gear cannot be used by power characters. The Omnipotence gear is a special one. It grants the player all character abilities, speed, flight, and power. This is the only way Dr. Eggman can use other characters' abilities, since he can only ride bikes. The catch is that using the character shortcut does not replenish air. The Cover S bike is designed only for speed characters, and gives generally high stats all around. The Cover F bike is designed only for flight characters, and gives generally high stats all around. The Cover P bike is designed only for power characters, and generally gives high stats all around. The Hang On bike is a novelty item that changes the music in-game to the main theme of Sega's arcade game, Hang On. It is a bit more powerful, but doesn't turn as well as other bikes and burns more air. The Super Hang On bike is a novelty item that changes the music in-game to the main theme of Sega's arcade game, Super Hang On. It is a bit more powerful, but doesn't turn as well as the other bikes and burns more air. Next, we have some air skates. The Darkness skates are Shadow's default gear, and is comparable to any other character's default gear. It can be used by any character except Dr. Eggman. The Grinder skates have weaker stats, but allow flight and power characters to grind on rails. The stats on Grinder are marginally better than Air Broom. This gear cannot be used by speed characters. The Advantage S air skates are designed only for speed characters, and have an outrageous top speed. Their other stats, however, dwindle. The Advantage F air skates are designed only for flight characters, and have an insane dash stat. Boosting should be no problem for these skates. The Advantage P air skates are designed only for power characters, and grant the player an extreme power stat. Barreling through obstacles should be a breeze for these skates. The Cannonball air skates don't have stat listings, but their main advantage is the execution of constant boosts. What this means is that boosts can be used at any time and do not consume air. The downside to this is that characters will not attack while boosting. Finally, when you complete all the missions in Mission Mode, you unlock the Chaos Air mode, which can only be used by Sonic. This turns Sonic into Super Sonic, who is always at full level and top speed. However, he uses rings instead of air, much like the Crazy, so keep that in mind when you boost. Welcome back, class! I trust that this lesson in how to play Sonic Riders has been useful. Let me know in the comments below if you found this helpful and gave you a better understanding of the game. I look forward to seeing Sonic Riders get the attention I feel it deserves, and that's why I made this video. I'll do a proper video next month, so I'll see you all then. Ah man, it felt good to get that out of my system. Seriously, I've been playing Sonic Riders since I was a kid, so being able to talk about it again felt great. I'll see you guys here next month with another game review. Ish. Bye now!